In 2026, Hollywood is changing. While the Star Wars and Marvel franchises gave us the old and familiar, films like Backrooms are drawing crowds by creating a sense of mystery. But one filmmaker who straddled that divide isn't in the conversation anymore. In Jeffrey Jacob Abrams' biggest films, he dropped the pop culture heroes of yesteryear into the narrative equivalent of a puzzle box. It worked for the most part, and when it didn't, it still grossed billions of dollars. Which makes it so surprising that his company, Bad Robot, is now in the midst of heavy cutbacks. It's the most dramatic twist he's ever given us, and it offers us an insight into how Hollywood has changed over the past 20 years. Abrams has been at the heart of that transformation. What was the secret of his success? And why is Bad Robot falling apart now? I know what you're thinking, so let's get it out of the way right off the bat. The obvious answer is that the rise of Skywalker caused Abrams' downfall. Now, it certainly didn't help his career, but it's also not the whole story. Because while the response to that film was negative, it was still financially profitable for Disney. And plenty of other directors have had the occasional massive stinker in otherwise distinguished careers. No, the real story with Abrams is much deeper than the response to any one film. It's about the rise of new media and how Hollywood struggled to keep pace with it. To understand where Abrams fits into the story, let's go back to the 2000s. At the time, he was on a hot streak thanks to Lost, the TV series he co-created. Between 2004 and 2010, the show built a huge following with its cryptic storytelling. That encouraged viewers to search for clues in supplementary material for the show, making it one of the first works of fiction to embed itself in the new media landscape of the internet. As a result of that success, Abrams was seen as being in tune with the zeitgeist, and so moved to the front rank of Hollywood creatives. And his rise came at a perfect time for Paramount Pictures. One of Hollywood's original Big Five, Paramount had a big problem. Its flagship franchise, Star Trek, was on its last legs, and in 2005, there was a real chance they would lose the rights to make further sequels. That's where Abrams came in. While finishing the studio's third Mission Impossible film, he agreed to direct a new Trek film. It was, in many ways, a brilliant solution, since it allowed the studio to share the cost of production with Bad Robot. It also gave the franchise a new lease of life. Abrams wasn't a Star Trek fan, so came to the project with a different perspective. He would reboot Star Trek, refocusing on the series' most iconic characters, Kirk and Spock. It was not intended as a continuation of the previous movies, appealing to a dwindling group of hardened fans. No, this Star Trek was for a younger, cooler audience, the kind of people who used MySpace and Bebo. And when it came to capturing attention, Abrams had a gift for Paramount. He called it the Mystery Box, and he explained it during a famous TED Talk in 2008. The Mystery Box is, among other things, a way of telling stories. You set up a mystery, resolve it, then set up another mystery, rinse and repeat. Abrams cited the original Star Wars as an example of this narrative approach.
You got the droids, they meet the mysterious woman. Who's that? We don't know. Mystery box, you know. Then you meet Luke Skywalker, he gets the droid, you see the holographic image, you learn, oh, it's a message, she wants to, find Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's her only hope. But who the hell is Obi-Wan Kenobi? Mystery box. So then you go and he meets Ben Kenobi's uncle is Obi-Wan Kenobi, holy shit, So it keeps it... Have you guys not seen that? It's huge. Anyway.
That narrative structure draws us in, because we always want to solve a mystery. It's like how clickbait works, triggering our dopamine reward pathways. That's satisfying for us, the viewer, and it can be lucrative for movie studios, particularly in a marketing campaign. For example, the teaser for Cloverfield, which Abrams produced, revealed little of the film's subject matter. Audiences could only solve the mystery at the heart of Cloverfield by paying to see it in cinemas. In that sense, the mystery box isn't only a way of telling stories, it's also a way of selling movies. In another way, the mystery box is neither of those things. Watch the TED Talk in full, and it becomes obvious that the image of the box is only a hook. It allowed Abrams to talk more generally about how to surprise the audience by defying their expectations, or using genre tropes to tell a more character-driven story.
Finally, there's this idea, and stretching the sort of paradigm a little bit, but the idea of the mystery box, meaning what you think you're getting than what you're really getting. And it's true in so many movies and stories. I mean, you look at E.T.
Taken at its broadest, any film could be described as a mystery box film. Especially this film, directed by Richard Kelly and released the same year as Star Trek. If that's the case, why did Abrams' films stand apart? Again, the answer is right there in the TED Talk. The films he cites, Star Wars, Jaws, E.T., shaped the industry that he ended up working in. And he's spent much of his career remaking them in one form or another. While Kelly's film goes in dizzying new directions, Abrams always end up on familiar territory, like in Star Trek, with its mystery of the Romulan ship. That resolves itself in the end with the appearance of the original Spock, Leonard Nimoy. Abrams played a similar trick once again in The Force Awakens, saving Luke Skywalker for the climax of the film. That matters because in Hollywood, the familiar is as much of a draw as the mysterious. For studio executives at least. Abrams looked like he was giving the audience something new, when in fact, he was giving the studios the same thing that had made money for them in the past. That's a handy skill set in Hollywood, or at least it used to be. Filming on Star Trek began November 7th, 2007, but a more important date in movie history was November 5th, 2 days earlier. That marked the beginning of the Writers Guild of America's strike, a strike that was called after a dispute over residual payments, including, most controversially, residuals for new media, aka streaming. As early as 2007, both the studios and the writers recognised the threat posed by streaming. The studios wanted a free hand to deal with it. The writers wanted the same kind of payments they received for DVD sales. And what did Abrams, WGA member in good standing, want out of the dispute? He wanted it over as soon as possible, so he could do rewrites on the set of Star Trek. However, that nuisance turned out to be a key turning point for Hollywood and for Abrams, something that became apparent 10 years later. What happened then? Well, to explain that, here's an important number: 66.8%. That's the percentage of Star Trek's worldwide box office gross that came from North America, which was almost 4 times the total domestic gross of the previous film, Star Trek Nemesis. But in spite of that success, one of the franchise's underlying weaknesses remained. Star Trek was huge in the US, but everywhere else? Not so much. Abrams' film made more money than Nemesis, but its worldwide split at the box office was almost identical. Even Abrams, with his mystery box, couldn't do much to improve those soft box office numbers. It eventually became more lucrative for Paramount to move Star Trek to streaming in 2017, 10 years after the writer's strike. By that time, Abrams was knee-deep in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the creative failure of which dented his image as a visionary. But the fallout of the Star Trek trilogy also played a part. His take on the franchise was controversial among fans and received a tepid reception among the general public. And the uncertainty around a 4th Star Trek film ended with Abrams' Paramount deal in 2019. The $500 million deal he signed afterwards with Warner's may have eased the pain, except a year later, this happened, and production on new films and TV ground to a trudge. Yet, after all these reversals, it would be wrong to say Abrams' Star Trek is a bad movie. If any film can be a mystery box, then this one is better made than many others. The snappy dialogue, the zippy pacing, the constant lens flare. This is a film trying to keep the viewer on its toes. But beyond the return of Spock and the rewriting of Trek lore and the Apple Store gloss, this box, once opened, turns out to be pretty empty. Instead of creating something new, Star Trek returns to the status quo by the end of the film. Abrams would take the same approach with a bigger franchise, Star Wars, to disastrous effect. Back in 2009, Abrams was the future. Nobody could have expected him to fall off the pop culture radar, but his deal with Paramount, the one that brought us Star Trek, tied him to a failing model. In recent years, Bad Robot has tried to catch up with the streamers. No matter though, a string of flawed movies tarnished Abrams' visionary aura. Fooled by these empty mystery boxes, audiences stop paying attention to JJ, and in our attention economy, that spells bankruptcy. To be fair, it's not all his fault. Bad Robot is downsizing because everywhere else in Hollywood is downsizing. There are economic forces at work that no one, not even an alleged visionary like Abrams, can hold at bay. His Star Trek was one of the last tentpole movies to reach cinemas before the sands shifted. It's a mystery box, containing both good and bad. The good being a breathless desire to twist expectations, the bad being a slavish commitment to the past. Now, a new generation of filmmakers is ready to fill the gap left by Abrams. Let's hope they have something more interesting in their own mystery boxes. But what do you think? Was the hype around Abrams justified, or was his real gift for self-promotion? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel or consider becoming a channel member, and check out this video, all about a very different auteur.